How are you going, guys? So welcome to another episode of Messy Tech Table, and today we'll be talking about the compatibility between JG Bar 10 and SSG10. So I know on the internet many people have found out that not every single part from the SSG10 is spec-wise is identical to VSR10 or JG Bar 10, and I've certainly found that to be the case. And I guess we'll share some of my findings of which ones are the same spec and interchangeable and which parts are not interchangeable. So first of all, quick magazine compatibility check. So this is the stock SSG10 magazine. We have the stock JG Bar 10 magazine. Let's check fitment, no problem. JG Bar 10 with the SSG10 magazine, no problem. And I've actually shot these rifles with the max exchange, and they both feed 100%. So other than this one's clear, I don't think there's too much difference between the two. So as you can see, these are the assemblies I removed from the JG Bar 10, and here's a barrel and hop-up assembly, the cylinder, and here we have the stock JG Bar 10 trigger group. So as far as the stock go, they're compatible. So the SSG10 stock is based on the Maple Leaf MLC stock. I've already tried this, and there's really no issue with compatibility. So if you swap just the barrel receiver, like basically the whole working mechanism behind the gun, the SSG10 will go on the JG Bar 10 stock, and JG Bar 10 will go on the Maple Leaf or SSG10 stock, no issue. I have purchased the SSG10 A1 stock, and they even have the same exact rubbery finish as the JG Bar 10. I can't really find any difference other than the butt pad that's used. So as far as the stock goes, they are compatible. So we'll take the upper receiver, the barrel assembly out of the gun and do further comparisons. One thing to know, the JG Bar 10, the two bolts in the front are they use 2.5mm Allen key. However, on the SSG10, even though the bolts are the same diameter, they use 3mm Allens for this assembly. As far as the mounting hardware, so here is behind the trigger. These bolts are slightly different lengths. They're not interchangeable. They are the same diameter, same. I think these are M4, I believe. Oh, I'm sorry. These are M5 screws. So first and very obvious, when you start this assembly, you'll notice these two screws that holds the trigger group and are different diameter. These are M4s and these are M3s. So that means when you buy any other trigger group that you want to use on SSG10, you will need to open up these holes. It's not a awfully terrible, difficult thing to do. You basically have to follow the same hole and then drill it out to 4mm. So as you can see, there's a little bit more holes on the SSG10 for locating dowels. So the bolt trigger does have these two locating pins right here. So the result of this is, if you try to attempt to install the SSG10 trigger group in a JG Bar 10, first of all, you do need to remove these two locating pins, so they will sit flush with the trigger group. Second, you will have to retap these two holes to M4, and then you will have to use the M4 screws provided with the trigger group to properly mount it. So this is a screw for the JG Bar 10, which is M3, and here is the SSG10, which is M4. To me, SSG10 did improve this tremendously, actually, because as you know, these receivers are made of cast zinc alloys, and in such a place where you're really limited on how many threads you can tap, the strings is really not good, and as a result, I mean, I'm pretty careful with assembling and disassembling, but I already managed to strip the hole on the JG Bar 10. So due to the receiver being M4 here, if you attempt to install like a standard VSR10 trigger group, but you just have to open these hole up to an M4 size and then use the M4 screw to screw it in. There might be some clearance issue because like how thick your engagement is, so you might have to buy a longer screw to make sure it sits well. It's also the same thing with the bolt trigger. I'm pretty sure if you can shave the nub and then retap the hole on the receiver, you can install the SSG10 trigger group. Or you can just go purchase the SSG10 receiver. They're not overly expensive. I don't know exactly how much, but in case you do want to go that route. Okay. Also have a side note about this trigger. This trigger is, I really like it a lot. It does provide a pretty good trigger feel. However, I think one of the problems they in the design is they actually painted the steel sear. So after some use, after the paint has been worn, the trigger starts to develop a creep. Before, when you got a new, it's like when you rack the bolt and then any travel going back will set the trigger off. After some use, you're gonna start feeling some creep before it doesn't break, and then just a little bit more it breaks. But it is still a very strong trigger group, and every major part that's in here is steel. So on the other hand, the S trigger is much more complicated, and as far as the sear go, this piece really matters a lot on how strong this is. Without taking it to a lab and really see what kind of material and what kind of heat treatment the sear got, I can't really tell. But so far so good. At least it's made out of steel, unlike the stock gun, which is made out of zinc, so this will definitely last much better. One quick complaint though, the safety feature on these. So this retained the same safety as this JG Bar 10, as you can see. The way they operate is exactly the same, but this piece is pot metal. The way they designed the charging handle always rubs up against your safety when you rack the bolt, so you can see a lot of wear. I hope Novritsch can change the geometry of this part where it doesn't protrude as far, where you won't interfere with the racking of the bolt. But right now it's not good. Unlike the S trigger, it doesn't have a safety option at all, and the trigger pull is really light. It has a longer travel, like a take up and then break. But no matter what kind of spring you use, you're not gonna really know that well when the break is coming, because it uses a roller here. Okay, so with the trigger taken out, you can easily slide the bolt assembly. This is the Action Army cylinder with the cylinder head that comes with it. Action Army 90-degree piston, Action Army M150 spring, and the Angel Custom stainless steel spring guide. So externally, these are definitely cross-compatible. If you look at lanes, it is interchangeable if you have it together. Let's say you want to put it in the SSG10. No problem. The nozzle will seat against the bucking, no problem, as you can see. They use the same bucking anyway, so And then if you put the trigger back, there's some friction, but you can rack it. Everything's still smooth. Do a compression check. See, still functions perfectly. So if you want to use a different cylinder assembly with focus on assembly, you can definitely do that. No problem. Okay. JG Bar 10, SSG10 cylinder assembly. No problem. Okay, so no problem. Rack the bolt. No problem. I don't know why I got stuck. It's pretty smooth once you rack it. Engages. No problem. Compression check. Good. So yeah. So once you have the bolt assembled, the compatibility is no problem. So as long as you're using 90-degree trigger on both in your VSR10 system, then the cylinder assembly is compatible, no issue. However, the problem comes once you try to swap out your internal, as I'll demonstrate right here. So first thing you'll notice is the spring are different diameters. This is the M150 Spring I purchased from Novritsch.com, which is what they use for SSG24 as well as SSG10. So I think the reason why he went with this is you already have a line of spring in a very fine increments of velocity, muzzle velocity that he already have, and it doesn't really take much to change this part. So he made it compatible where he doesn't have to source a different spring, a different manufacturer to produce what he already have functionally. So this is what they call a 13mm spring, I guess, because if you measure from the outside, it is 13mm, almost, not exactly. And we measure a stock VSR10 diameter spring. It's 10.6, so I guess you would call it 11mm. So with the different spring, your spring guide is definitely different. So to go with the larger diameter spring, so SSG10 is 8.78, give or take. And on a VSR10, it's 7.15. So big difference there. If you have an Action Army and let's say, well, bigger diameter spring, does it work? I wouldn't call this functional because you are rubbing against the inside. Usually when you have a piston, you don't want like the diameter to be just right at where the spring is. So once you compress this, there's going to be some expansion, and which causes a lot of wear. So I would not use a Action Army piston with the SSG10 spring ever. However, what's interesting is I think for the PSS10 from Laylax, this actually have a bigger diameter cutout for the spring, which is interesting. And this is definitely not rubbing. So I guess if you have a Laylax set, you can use this piston with the SSG10 spring. So next biggest problem is when you try to attempt to install a VSR10 spec piston in a SSG10 cylinder, it's not gonna happen, as I'll demonstrate. Action Army, there it is. it's not gonna go in. Just not. And the reason for that is SSG10 chose to use a thicker wall cylinder, which to me I think it's good. It's a good thing, but they're just not compatible. So this is the Action Army. If you look at this the guy ring on the piston, which is about just a little bit smaller than the inside of the cylinder. This is at 22.18. And if you look at the SSG10 piston here, which is pretty good quality, it is 21.56. So there's no way they are compatible. You're not gonna be able to create a seal in like an Action Army or a stock JG Bar 10. See? You're just not. This is too much difference in diameter. Same thing with the Lilacs. There's no way of fitting it, as you can see. 22.1. It's about the same. It's a little bit different. So these two, same diameter. As you can see, even when they say VSR10 specs, even the lengths of the piston, they're not the same. We have a stock JG Bar 10 cylinder. It's also, actually it's a little bit smaller. This is 21.9. So there are some tolerances, but if you try to stock cylinder, if you're trying to fit an Action Army, it's a little bit tighter. See, even what you call VSR10 spec, there's still some tolerances going on. You'll still fit, but it's definitely not the best. So let's take a look at what's the thread diameter. 22.94. This is for SSG10. And you look at Action Army. As far as the cylinder head goes, they are compatible. So Action Army on SSG10, no problem. There's a difference in how thick how much thread there is, but you can see it this way. So this headspace is very important, and this Action Army is actually thicker. So you can't, even though you can screw it on, I believe once you use this on the SSG10, due to this tolerances, I don't think you can rack it correctly. Yeah, let's give it a test. I don't think you could. So SSG10 with the Action Army cylinder head. Well, I guess the tolerances is acceptable. Okay, so I guess I'm wrong. It's acceptable. I think this harkens back to one of the things that SSG24 Novritsch changed about the design of the cylinder head. Is he wanted when you seat the bolt, he doesn't want this part to be contacting your hop chamber. So this way, when you start shooting, like the shock and everything doesn't go from the cylinder into your hop chamber. And if you do that over time, you're gonna put a lot more wear and tear and mess up the tolerances, etc. Okay, there's one more thing I haven't tried is the bolt handle. They say the bolt handle is not compatible, so. So unfortunately the D10 got stuck in the hole, which is really unfortunate. I think I might have to trash this piece. Action Army, this is the stock JG Bar 10 bolt handle. Fits well. SSG10, no way Jose. So bolt handle is no go. So if you're trying to customize it, I'm sorry. This is the Action Army, 11.85. If you measure the same with the 11.36. So there's a good 0.5 millimeter difference in diameter. So yeah, 0.5, that's huge. That's a huge amount of difference in diameter. So as far as the cylinder go, there's really not that much compatibility. A lot of people still want to customize their gun, like in terms of looks. For me, functionality is my top priority, so this really doesn't. If you are one of those who really want like unique looking guns and you want to buy parts that fits it, this is bad news for you. Bolt handle and bolt end. Actually, what's also funny is this is the Action Army cylinder, but you cannot fit a JG Bar 10 end cap either. Just the way this the flat is cut doesn't allow this to go on. It's not cut enough, so I had to go to Action Army end just to make it functional. So much for compatibility. Every brand has their tolerances, so. As far as the quality go, I think I've never had any complaint about Novritsch internal parts. They're really good quality, pretty good material. Other than the cylinder, when you just bought it, you can see like this, the slot is not covered clean. Even though it's very strong, it's not very clean. So I had to go with a sanding stick. First I went with this coarse, and then I had to just, you know, sand it off like this to take off all the imperfections, and then I use a finer grit, finish it again both sides to make sure when you pull the bolt it doesn't, you know, it doesn't wear down your spring stop as much, which you can see right here. I try to be fair to all the products and see why they are, and I just gave the truth of how it is. I don't have a bias towards them. I think these products are really good value, but they're not perfect. But strings wise, I don't think he did anything wrong with these products. So to me, I think the value proposition of the SSG10 is very high. I looked at, I'm not really experienced in VSR10 platform, but I mean, I'm just looking at parts wise, how much they are on the market. I just can't. I can't build something of this quality at the same price point. I just can't. There are better parts out there, but they're definitely expensive. So after some rambling, I'm just putting it back together. So next we'll look at barrel assembly. We'll look into the hop up and outer barrel. To look at the receiver, there are some differences, not a whole lot. The geometry is the same. SSG10 guy ring and JG Bar 10 guy ring, they're almost identical, just different color. Even looks like they came out of the same mold. So we'll take a detailed photo of it. However, there's some difference in the receiver. So on the SSG10, he put an extra O-ring groove and O-ring around where the outer barrel screws into your receiver. And on JG Bar 10, that part is missing. It's right around this area. We'll take a photo. Pretty sure last time I checked, they're the same thread. So SSG10 receiver fitting a JG Bar 10 outer barrel. We'll put the guy ring here. I think it works, but there's a lot of friction against that O-ring. And I think it works. I'm not gonna put the screw out. I'm just gonna try a bolt. seems to work. So the bolt goes all the way, engages into the. It's definitely creating the seal against the bucking, so no problem. Fuck. Okay, yeah, the O-ring's not happy. Guys, there's still some tolerances. I almost ripped the O-ring. Okay, welcome back. So I guess it was a bad idea, the outer barrel. So be careful with that O-ring. O-ring on the receiver, you might rip it. So guys, when you're trying to put on the outer barrel, make sure on the SSG10 lube up your O-ring really well, okay? SSG10 outer barrel on the JG Bar 10 receiver. Works, so this is the correct depth. But once you do it, it's kind of wobbly. So all your alignment, you're gonna have to rely on your stock, as you can see. Next, we'll move on to the hop-up assembly and barrel assembly. First of all, this block, the interface with the stock is almost identical. Other than SSG10 having a plastic piece right here that JG Bar 10 does not. As far as the barrel block is concerned, I don't see any difference whatsoever. Yeah, it's the same geometry, same tolerances, no issue. So the SSG10, looking at the hop-up casting, is identical to the JG Bar 10 casting-wise, but he definitely machined some part out. So SSG10 chamber, I would say, is a CNC finished version of the JG Bar 10 chamber. He did some machining on the where the hop-up roller is being held. I had no issue with the SSG10 chamber whatsoever. I think I really like its ability to quickly adjust on the field, unlike the Action Army. This is a really nice chamber. You do have to, you know, rack your bolt back and then use a Allen screwdriver to adjust your hop-up. A lot of times, you know, with the changing wind, you really do want to change your hop-up, and also, you know, for longer distance, you might want to over-hop a little bit, and then for a closer range, you want the trajectory to be flat. You know, you take it down just a click or so. Even though it's very nice looking, anodized, CNC machined completely, I'm not really a big fan of how this works. But let's see if it fits into SSG10 outer barrel. So it fits, no issue. And given how all the other tolerances are, there's no doubt that this gun will take an Action Army hop-up chamber, even though I don't see a reason to do that. I have no doubt that this will fit in the JG Bar 10. You can buy this for like $30-something. I don't remember exactly what it is, but on the Novritsch's website, and you can upgrade your JG Bar 10 with this chamber. There's also no doubt that the SSG10 can take an aftermarket VSR10 430mm barrel. I think the brass barrel in the SSG10 is good. Looking down the board, the barrel is not looking that good, to be honest. Smoothness is not will give you accuracy, as I figured from when I tested at Arcturus 8Ks. I mean, the inside looks, yeah, just completely rough. But I mean, all the roughness is crevices. They're not protruding outside of into the barrel, so it didn't really affect the accuracy. You can probably improve accuracy consistency by going with the better aftermarket barrel like this. Yeah, the Lambda is much better polished. So yeah, you can definitely upgrade the barrel if you want. But right now I don't see a problem per se. The accuracy is still pretty good. So maybe in the future I'll test out a different barrel and see if it actually makes any noticeable difference. But as far as compatibility, anything in the outer barrel, inside the outer barrel, you know, hop up, inner barrel, outer barrel, they're all compatible with standard VSR10 spec parts. As you can see, once you take it apart, you can really see why the spiral fluting on the barrel is not nearly as deep as a SSG24. It's because the inner diameter of the SSG10 or VSR10 spec gun, in order to fit a standard chamber, has to be pretty thin. So that's a limiting factor. You can't just go as much as he cut on the SSG24 without, you know, penetrating the whole entire barrel. I already tried a lot of parts and see which one's compatible, which one's not compatible. Overall, I think the compatibility is not bad. He made some improvements, to be honest, as far as I can see it. And some of them affected the compatibility. There's some tolerances or design that's, for me, it's just different for the sake of being different and not fitting other parts. For example, the bolt handle. But most of the stuff that's you know, off spec per se is really for like a notable improvement. It's not like done just to screw with you so that you can't use any other people's part. For example, the screw hole size is definitely an improvement going from M3 to M4. So yeah. So overall, you can still upgrade it. You can still take a lot of standard VSR10 parts, but just keep that in mind that the parts I've listed are not compatible. They're not gonna fit any other parts, or you might have to combine parts in a way that makes them compatible. So that's that. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next one.